I want to talk now and really for the remainder of my time with you about the future and about what we could face in the future and how we prepare ourselves for the future. And my reference for this is a new book by a futurist named Bob Johansen that's from the Futures Institute called New Leadership Literacies. And it's a dynamic book. He actually came and made a presentation and spent some serious time with us at the Leadership 18 annual meeting just a couple of weeks ago and really spent about a day with us. And it was so impactful that I would actually like to try to see if I could bring him in to really spend time with our family, with the Volunteers of America family. Specifically with the philosophy of looking 10 years out and then working back from 10 years out. Looking at what changes might occur in 10 years and will almost have to occur in 10 years, and then working back as to how do we prepare for it. Kind of looking first at sort of what's happened in the past 10 years, it's been phenomenal. That literally the iPhone was created in 2007, the App Store in 2008, and then in 2010 really launched new connectivity tools integrating a new media ecology, i.e. Instagram, in October of 2010. And think about how much things have changed in the media world, in the internet world, and in the digital world since 2010. It is phenomenal how things have changed. Things that we can't even imagine not being connected now. We can't even imagine being without our phone now. Virtually things that we would do on our laptop and on our Dell computers, if you will, are now done on your phone. This is going to just multiply and mainly speed up just incredibly in the next 10 years because of the technology that they're sitting on now. The way this is described by Johansen is our new world will be volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. He takes the initials of that and calls it a VUCA world. I mean, that's the new world, that literally everything will have a digital element. Transformation from digital tools to connective media will be so pervasive that people will literally wear it like jewelry. Literally wear it like jewelry. That actually the word digital will disappear because it'll just be so totally integrated into everything we do. The speed of change, and mainly the speed of disruptive change, is going to be something that we have never seen before. The leader's role will be to try to imagine this world, imagine the new Volunteers of America, imagine how we must change to thrive in this, how we must change as trusted leaders and to effectively lead us through this change, and how, frankly, in this task, our CEO titles, Chief Executive Officer, in reality become CTO, Chief Trust Officer. We're going to have to be outstanding at developing that trust as we lead our family through these incredible changes because they're going to be so fast. So in doing this, he suggested in his book that the number one skill, the number one leadership skill that we're going to have to develop and leadership literacy that we're going to have to develop is the use of foresight. Truly foresight. And that's not necessarily predictive, it's more foresight, and the kind of foresight that was modeled by our strategic planning group as we tried to look at what are the key priorities and then to focus on not so much the tactics yet, but truly the priorities there to have foresight to stimulate the insight and the action that we would need to take. So looking at those areas that we're going to have such dramatic change. But at the same time, doing that with a significant tone of humility. Why the humility? Because we cannot allow ourselves to become so certain about everything. That's the whole key to this, is that things will be uncertain. So we must maintain clarity, but not certainty, frankly, because we'll have to be humble enough to make adjustments, humble enough to make changes. At the same time, we've got to be incredibly nimble, phenomenally nimble. So our goals will represent our clarity. They will probably stay the same if we have that true clarity, but the execution of them, it's the execution of the goals that literally could change 9 months into the plan that I just showed you. Those could literally change 9 months in based on these kinds of changes that we're talking about. That's where leaders have, number one, got to be humble enough to admit, hey, this is different now. This is what I thought was going to work is not going to work as well. And we need transparent input, and we need to be transparent about that. We as leaders, the transparency of our work as leaders is going to be even more important now than it's ever been. That's a huge piece for us. So therefore, as we get into that, leaders will need to have the capacity to bring hope, to always bring hope, because the disruptive changes will have a tendency sometimes to stifle people. And it will be up to us to make sure that we are constantly projecting this in a hopeful manner. And you know, that's where I think Volunteers of America is so well prepared for this, from mainly our grounding, okay? Now, we're not prepared as far as knowing the changes and being out there and having done the work, working 10 years back. That's work we must still do. I frankly think we need a task force about that. I mean, I would love to have the input and the ideas from everyone in this room and the people you go back to about things that you think we might face, changes you already see in your programming and in your circumstances that we need to be prepared to help with. That's key for us. But the capacity, the new capacity to compute data instantly and communicate it in seconds is going to enable us to reach people in new ways and transform lives in ways that we never thought possible otherwise. Literally, that transformation is going to be dramatic. And to give you kind of just a perspective on that, on the power, the transformative power of the future, and how actually exciting this is, I want to tell you a story about how this impacted a group's lives, a couple's life. There was a couple that had a firstborn child, and that firstborn child had a congenital heart defect. It's pretty significant, required open heart surgery. We even heard last night at Elaine's retirement reception about her having a grandchild going to have open heart surgery soon in Houston that we're all praying for. That's never a mild thing. That's always a serious thing. The open heart surgery went well. Things were stable. And then they decided to have a second child. Second child, the pregnancy occurred. Everything looked normal. Everything seemed great. They were incredibly excited, hoping this time to have a healthy child. You know, they'd possibly not have that congenital heart defect this time. And then when it came time to give birth to the baby was stillborn. The baby was stillborn. They really didn't know why. The doctors really couldn't tell them why. But the baby was not breathing when it was born. So they went through the process, the such painful process that parents have to go through in these situations to literally plan services, plan a funeral for the child and get the cemetery plot and get the little headstone and all of that. A couple of years passed and they tried again. Had their third pregnancy, to have their third child, go through this again. Doctors said everything is looking good. Of course, they were, you know, had some fear and trepidation as they went through this, but everything was looking good. And then suddenly, at about 8 months, they noticed that the child wasn't breathing. Again, gave birth, stillborn child. The first child had been a boy. This one was a girl. And so once again, they had to go through that same process of getting a plot next to the first child, having a funeral service, having another little headstone carved. Then they wanted to try again. And so they had a fourth pregnancy. They were thrilled to be pregnant, totally thrilled to be pregnant. Again, all the signs were normal. There were no signs of any issue. Things moved along. They had the things that all people have, had baby showers, do all those things, get the room painted, you name it. This one they knew ahead of time was going to be a girl, another girl. And then almost identically to what had happened on the third, the child's heartbeat stopped, and right after 8 months. Again, another stillborn birth. Again, another funeral to plan. Again, another cemetery plot to buy next to the other two. And literally they had their 3 last pregnancies, their 3 last children laying there together. The couple after this said, you know, no more. No more. The doctors couldn't explain it. There was really no medical answer to it at that time. They said, we can't do this again. Let's be happy with our first that we had. Even though he had a congenital heart defect, he's doing fine. Let's be content with that and go forward with our lives. And that's what they did. For a couple of years, and then something happened that frankly scared them to death. They got pregnant again. An absolutely accidental pregnancy. It was not intended. It was a mistake. And they thought it was a big mistake. They couldn't imagine going through this again. Signs, again, were normal early on. But then suddenly, during some of the testing they did, they discovered a blood incompatibility that had not been discovered before. And so from that, they said, then we must take this baby at 6 months. We can't let it go into the 7th and 8th month. Let's take this baby at 6 months. Let's wait till we think it's about 5 pounds. It was a boy. Let's wait till it gets to be about 5 pounds, and let's take that baby then, and then be prepared to do a complete blood transfusion afterwards. This is what they did. To the delight, obviously, of the parents, it was successful. They took the baby right at 5 pounds, did a complete blood transfusion. Baby then goes into ICU for about 3 weeks, run every test they can possibly run, no apparent medical issues. No apparent medical issues. Literally, the transformative power of the future, of the medical changes and things that happened, had changed the lives of that entire family. That couple were my parents, and I'm that child. And I have great respect for the transformative power of the future. I have great respect for the progress that our technology brings. I have great hope for the future. Obviously, I'm just tickled to be here. I want to capitalize on every single day I get, okay? Because I'm playing with house money, okay? I know that, okay? I know that. You'll never find me arrogant, okay, about anything. But literally, this transformative power of the future, as I read Johansen's book, I thought, this is our moment. This is our moment in Volunteers of America. We have the capacity to get ahead of this curve. We have the capacity to have the clarity of vision, which was shown by the processes we just did. We have the capacity to project the hope with our faith into everyone that we see and touch. And at the same time, we have the capacity to build the trust with everyone that we serve and everyone that works with us to serve those and everyone that we collaborate with, that we can do this more effectively now than ever because of the changes we have. I want to tell you, it is a privilege to serve with you. Thank you, and God bless you.